Welcome to Team Building Cultures, the podcast designed to deliver tools and tips for improving team communication, collaboration, and fostering a culture where teams thrive. Now, here's your host, Beverly Hathorn, owner of Strategic HR Consultants.
Hello, listeners, and thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Team Building Cultures. I am Beverly Hathorn, your host for today, and I am owner of Strategic HR Consultants. Today, I will be speaking with Regina Huber. Regina's a very distinguished guest this morning. I'm very excited to have her here. As the CEO of Transform Your Performance, Regina Huber drives bold, value-driven, and heart-centered leadership. She has an eclectic experience on 5 continents, started in Germany, and that included leadership positions at the Boston Consulting Group, as well as ownership of businesses in Argentina, Brazil, and the United States. This has shaped her into a multicultural transformational leadership coach, an international inspirational speaker, and author of Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine. She has also co-authored 3 other books and wrote numerous articles for magazines in the U.S. and Africa, where she's been featured by multiple media outlets. Regina is a conversational intelligence enhanced skills practitioner. She created 2 signature coaching frameworks. One is Powerful Leadership Transformation, and the other is New Paradigm Leadership. Regina has a passion for travel and dance. So let's get into it. Regina, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Beverly, for having me. It's a delight to speak with you. I know we had a little conversation in the past, and I was really looking forward to this.
Yes, so am I. I'm excited for my listeners to hear what you shared with me, because it's just absolutely enthralling, the knowledge and the skill and the experience that you have. So today's show will be titled Unconventional Secrets to Transform Teams and Cultures. So this will be exciting. So I'll just jump right in. Regina, I've heard you say that leadership starts and ends with self. Can you expand on that?
Yes, I believe that before we can lead others, we must be able to lead ourselves. I think it would be arrogant even to want to lead others without mastering self-leadership first. And plus, it doesn't really work that well. So in my opinion, self-leadership is the most essential leadership skill of all. Without it, there's really no authentic leadership, and there's also no ethical leadership, no effective, value-driven leadership, which is what I teach and talk about a lot. And even if you get there and you get effective leadership, it's not sustainable. So understanding self is really the basis of understanding others. And if we don't understand others, at least to a certain extent, then I believe we cannot be entitled to lead them. So it's really, really important to recognize our own brilliance and greatness in order for us to recognize it in other people as well. And it also removes that need for competition, and it kindles a spirit of co-creation. And I think that's what we all want in our teams, co-creation, right? And on the other side of the coin, also, there's then the need to acknowledge our shortcomings, because that then allows us to add or to deepen necessary skills that we might not have in our repertoire yet. But also to partner with others who have talents or skills or abilities that we might not have, because it's also about owning our imperfections, in my opinion. Owning our imperfections helps us be compassionate with others who are also not perfect, who also don't know it all, because we're not supposed to know it all and to have it all. And who likes perfect people anyway, right? I think nobody does. So self-leadership for me includes all of this and more, right? It also includes being open to feedback, reflecting and acting on feedback, so we can grow from it, as we expect our team members to grow from the feedback we give them. And we sometimes must allow others, including our team members, and of course our peers and our management team, to influence us, because to me it's quite obvious that when we allow or are open to being influenced by others, then it becomes easier also to influence others. They will also be more open to be influenced by us. So in a nutshell, I think leaders who transform themselves can transform others, and they can transform teams, they can transform organizations and communities. And all of the above is really why I believe that self-leadership is the most important leadership skill of all. And it's 100% indispensable for authentic leadership excellence.
Wow, that's awesome. And I also agree with you on everything that you just said. Specifically, if you don't know about yourself and your own capabilities or your own shortcomings, it's really hard to lead someone else or to help someone else get where they need to be. And when you speak about feedback, a lot of people sometimes see feedback as a negative, but feedback is actually a positive. It's an opportunity to grow. It's where you get better. So when you talk about these things, what you're saying, what I'm hearing is communication and collaboration are key, especially when it comes to the co-creation. How are we going to work together and create things together if we don't know what each other's bringing to the table? We've got to know what we're bringing to the table, what our skills are, what our experiences are, and then, we can make something happen. So I totally agree with all of that. Now, you talk about the role of energy and leadership. What's that about? Help us with that.
Yes, and if I can just add on another comment to what you just said, it is really, really key to recognize what you so beautifully summarized, Beverly, because, we have teams so that we can co-create something bigger than we could create on our own. But this is only the potential. We must make it work, right? Because everything else depends on our self-leadership, our communication, as you mentioned, employee engagement, team cohesion, all of this, productivity, whatnot. The list goes on. But coming back to your second question, the role of energy in leadership, I'm always surprised that not more people talk about this, because of course, my approach to coaching and to leadership is very holistic. And the reason for that is probably that I studied some holistic modalities in the past that have helped me understand myself and others better, and also use my energy in not just leadership, but also in business presence in general, in how I show up, right? And in speaking. So energy has a really big role in leadership presence. You can enhance your perceived presence and raise your confidence at the same time when you use your energy correctly. It's also important for trust building just in general. So, everything is energy, and yet we hardly speak about it in business. And I wonder why. I sometimes think we're not told that or taught this in school, yes, because there's some fear that we might become too powerful if we know how to manage our energy better. So it's also not so much about the quantity of energy. Of course, we need a lot of or a good amount of energy to be a leader, of course, but it's much more about the quality. You may have heard, as most of us have heard, and our audience may have heard, that it takes 7 seconds to make a first impression.
Yes.
The truth is, though, that it takes only 0.07 seconds for our brains to figure out whether we can trust someone. And the reason why this is so fast is because it's part of our survival mechanism. So it has to be super fast, because when we're in a life or death situation, we got to react really fast, right? What does that mean, though? in business and anywhere really in life, your energy speaks faster and louder than your words. So we constantly communicate on an energetic level, whether we are aware of it or not. I believe it's really worth being aware of it, because
Yes.
the truth is, Beverly, my energy and yours too, everybody's energy flows into everything we say, we think, even we do. And when we consider that even our thoughts, not just our words and our actions, they impact other people and the things around us even, then this is a very important fact to consider, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is also one of the reasons why in my book, Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine, I included some energy exercises. In that book, what I'm sharing is specific exercises that can help you prepare mentally, physically, and energetically for challenging situations in business, such as public speaking, presentations, job interviews, negotiations, whatever it is for you, right? For some, it's just regular meetings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think, it's really, really important to optimize your energy to build trust. And as leaders, we need to build trust in all directions, right? With our peers, with management, with our shareholders, sometimes with our team, of course. So it's really, really important to manage and to optimize that energy. And how can we do that? Well, as I said, there are specific exercises that are very, very simple. Focusing on our inner power energy, for example, it's one of the exercises that I share in my book, right? So yes, we do build trust through words. Of course we do, through our voice, through our actions, our attitudes, our behaviors. We build trust through our body language. But the fact is, our energy flows into all of this.
Wow.
And that's why it's, in my opinion, has a primary role in this whole presence conversation, right?
Wow. That's incredible that you so quickly know if you'll trust someone or not. Within like a millisecond, as soon as you meet them, but we often don't follow that discernment or that energy that we innately are equipped with. So I would like to know more about the role of energy in leadership. So I will definitely be checking out your book. I would like to learn more about those exercises that can help me with that, because as a leader, I'm constantly faced with situations that require me to adjust my energy properly. So sure, I have my affirmations that I start my day with, and I have my hopes that I, start my day with. But as soon as I start to encounter people, traffic, other situations, it can change all of that for me. So I would definitely like to learn more about those exercises. So in some of your articles, you write about heart set. That's also a new concept, at least for me. Maybe my listeners have heard that before. So tell us what you mean by that.
I like to say a mind led by the heart is the most powerful mind.
Oh.
And if we only focus on mindset, which for sure is important. You just mentioned it. You do affirmations, right? This is connected more to our minds. And when you add your heart to it, though, they become more powerful, for example. If we only focus on the mindset piece, in my belief and my conviction, we miss out on 50% of our intelligence and our very unique personal wisdom, because it's in the heart where we gather and can access this very unique wisdom. The heart, you might have heard this before, is actually a part of our brain, but it can also even survive independently for a few seconds, And it has 40,000 brain-like cells that create their own neural networks, and they think, in quotation marks, right, independently of the cranial brain or the head brain. So your heart creates, and this is a very important fact, the strongest bioelectrical and magnetic fields in your body. Scientists have found, and some of the scientists that have done a lot of research into this are the ones at the HeartMath Institute. They have found that the heart's electrical field is 100% as strong as the brain's electrical field, and the magnetic field of the heart can even be up to 5,000 times stronger. 5,000 times stronger than the cranial brain's magnetic field. What does that mean? It means, in my understanding, that our connection with the world around us happens to a large extent with the heart. It means that our heart is a magnet because of the strong magnetic frequency it sends out. And some people also talk about the magnetic monopole that's in our heart center, right? So it has a very important role in our relationships, also in business, not just in a romantic relationship or a family relationship. And it has an important role in manifesting, as we sometimes call it, or creating or attracting what we want because of this magnetic function. So the heart brain is quite a phenomenon. It's not just, the heart isn't just an organ that pumps blood through our body, right? Now, in my Powerful Leadership Transformation Framework, I have this one pillar that is called a self-empowering mindset and heart set, right? So they belong together. The mindset still is very, very important, but it cannot function optimally without aligning your heart. And when the mind is led by the heart, that's when the magic happens.
Wow, that's incredible. That is so far from what I think the typical person thinks of as when they think of the heart, and it's wonderful to know that it has these magnetic powers to draw to us. I never really considered it in that fashion. We always think of the mind, as, so you think it, so it, put it in the universe, give it a place to live, but you've got to put that in your heart as well. Yeah. That's really, really interesting.
Yes. And what's also important is to add the emotion. A lot of people have heard this by now, right? So whatever you want to manifest, create, you got to add the emotion. The emotion comes from, different also even parts of the body, because, everything is related and connected, right? But it also comes from the heart. And I think one very important aspect about the heart for leaders is if you want to be a value-driven, innovative leader, you need courage. And courage is in the heart. Fear is in the mind. Courage is in the heart.
Yes, absolutely. I've said that often, that, to be a true servant leader, it takes heart. It really does. It takes heart and it takes courage. And you have to be courageous. You have to know when to pull the trigger on certain things. You have to be courageous in your coaching and your development. So I'm just so fascinated to learn how powerful our heart is. And like I said, I was not aware, and I'm not sure that most of my listeners, maybe a lot of them do know this, but so much comes from your heart. So guard your heart, listeners, and make sure that what you're emanating from your heart is what you truly want to manifest. So things like fear, they come from your mind, so they have no place in your heart. That is such an interesting concept and such great information that, in all your travels and all your leadership positions, I'm sure you have put this to the test and know what you're talking about here. So tell me more about your new paradigm leadership framework. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yes, the new paradigm leadership framework, or MPL framework, also has the heart as one of its elements because of several reasons. One, also because people are the heart of the organization, right? So that's the other piece of the heart. And we also need heart-centered leadership. What does that mean? Well, yes, we consider humans as the heart of the organizations, humans who have aspirations, who have desires, needs, and they have challenges, right? This is all about what I call humanizing the workplace. And our hearts also have this crucial role in our relationships, as we said before, because we connect through our hearts, and we also can be more compassionate leaders. Compassion resides in our hearts. And I do believe that we need more compassionate leadership, actually, rather than more empathetic leadership. I have done a few videos and I've written about this because, if you study it in depth, I have come to the conclusion that empathy is more like an ability, and it can actually also be abused. What we need is compassion. Compassion is an attitude that can easily translate into a behavior, and it does use the ability of empathy, but it is that attitude that we need, and that behavior, those traits, not just the ability to read others, which sometimes actually can be used in your, to your disadvantage. But back to the NPL, to the New Paradigm Leadership Framework. So there's the heart. That it has 4 puzzle pieces, I call them here, to create more engaged and happier teams. That's the goal of this framework, right? So the heart, then we have the mind. The mind needs to go everywhere because, of course, also it impacts all you do. It determines your vision, what you can achieve. It determines your drive, all of that, your goals, all of that. Then the third puzzle piece is message. This is all about communication. Whether you speak or not, messages are transmitted. So this is about much more than words. It's about body language, about your energy, all of that, right? Your silence even. And the fourth puzzle piece is then trust. Trust is the glue that holds teams together, and it plays into, all of this plays into corporate or organizational cultures, of course, right? Trust also, I believe, is what allows creativity to flow, because we're not really propense or inclined to share when we do not trust.
Awesome. And, some of those things I have actually said. So I'm really excited to see that you and I have actually used the same words, particularly when you talk about trust. I've often said that's what allows the creativity. People have to trust their leader in order to say, I'm thinking about maybe, what if we do it this way? Or, I was wondering, maybe, when we do this, it could cause this, but you've got to have trust that your leader, they have to have created an aura or atmosphere of psychological safety for you to get the best of your people. They have to trust you and know that I can step out here and I'm not going to get slashed or ripped or, put in my place or whatever. And then the creativity flows. And if you encourage that, then they go back and they shape that idea, or, they work out the kinks and the bugs of that thought. And you may even come out with a new process, a better process in the course of it. So yes, that trust is very, very important. And communication. I feel like communication is everything, not only, as you said, with your words, but your energy, which we've often said, and your body language. People don't always realize that when you're talking to somebody and your arms are folded, that means you're closed off. You're not really, interested or listening to what they're saying, and when your eyes float and look elsewhere, there's so much that goes into body language when it comes to communication that sometimes we're not aware that we're sharing, even though it's what we're thinking and feeling. We're not aware that we're actually communicating that. So That's really interesting that we have the same thought processes in that area. So how can we encourage our team members to bring more of their best selves? Of course, I know that there's trust that we need to exhibit and compassion, which we've learned empathy is a component of compassion, not, doesn't just stand alone. So, but how can we encourage our team members to bring more of their best selves?
Yes, and you're absolutely right. We seem to be very aligned with some of this thinking. So how can we encourage our team members to bring more of their best selves? Well, encourage them to share more. You just mentioned trust in a very important area, Beverly. You said, well, ask your team members for their ideas. How would they do things? And this can avoid them maybe getting frustrated and taking their $1 million ideas to the next organization. If they're not encouraged to share, maybe they are not encouraged to stay.
Yes.
And we don't really know who we lose because we have never gotten to know them. I believe that one way of doing that is to ask more open-ended questions, and also, of course, the right questions. Do you know your individual team members really well? Do you know what their aspirations are, what their passions are? Do you know what their challenges are? What else is in their potential that's not covered in the job description you hired them with? And does their job description maybe need to be adapted because somebody in the team might do one piece of that job description better than they would, and then they can take on something else that they are great at, right? So sometimes I think it's also about flexibility. Also, asking stimulating questions can be really helpful when you want to increase the team's creativity. As you said earlier, it's similar to what you mentioned. How would they handle or manage a specific situation if they had a say in it? Maybe they don't have the authority right now officially, but you can still give them authority, momentarily at least, to share. And have them share their passions, because sometimes seemingly unrelated passions can actually be very relevant to the work. I have learned this through dance, for example. I've learned so many leadership and team lessons through dance. I don't even know where to start. I wrote an entire blog about it and an article also on my, I think I also included one in my LinkedIn newsletter, which is called Career Growth Strategies. And another really, really important tool I want to share is to do a story sharing session. This really increases the understanding of each other. It leads to greater team cohesion and team bonding, but it also increases the trust because now we know who we are dealing with on a daily basis. And that, again, inspires us to share more openly usually. And then, of course, you can integrate a few of, those questions and whatnot, just really simple ones maybe, in your team update meetings or however you do those meetings with your team, right?
Yes. Once again, we're right there on the same page, because I happen to believe that how much more you get from your team members when you get to know them and you line yourself up with them and you understand their goals and their aspirations and their skills and abilities and where they can go. And as a servant leader, it is your responsibility, I've often said, to help people achieve their personal development goals, their professional development goals. You should understand that Amy wants to be, I don't know, accountant, and she has the skills and the education, but she's here in another organization where she doesn't get to exhibit that. And by the way, the longer you go with those things, you kind of lose them. State and federal governments tend to rate you based on how recently you've used those skills. So you may have acquired those skills years and years ago, but if you've not been able to use them recently, they kind of drop it down a little bit on your skill assessments. So we need to take our employees and understand where they do best, where they work best, what they can do best, and what their aspirations are, and help them grow that. Again, we're talking about the heart. We're talking about compassion. We're talking about trust. I see how all of this works together. I don't think I kind of like broke it down in those terms, but yeah, I definitely see how all of that works together. So speaking of teams, who do you mostly work with?
Yes, in recent years, I have mostly worked with team leaders all the way up to the C-suite. So they can have different titles. A lot of my clients are in financial services and tech, although not only, because my transformational coaching approach really works in any industry. I've also worked with people in nonprofit, in the nonprofit sector. The job titles of most of my clients are VP, director, senior VP, senior director, all the way up, heads of departments, divisions, you name it. It's just different sometimes depending on, the nomenclature of the different organizations or industries. And some are also in the C-suite, and others are aspiring to get there, or maybe they just want to be better leaders. Or maybe some of them want to get a raise, a promotion, or both, and all that good stuff. Yeah, so it's a lot about transformation. As I said, it's transformational leadership coaching. That means several different things. It is about transformational leadership, but it's also about your own transformation, so that then you can help transform others as well, and teams. So I also work with teams for trainings, and I speak at company events in person and online. I do customized presentations or interactive sessions, and I speak at conferences, summits. So yeah, that's what I do.
Oh, well, that's a very broad audience. The information that you've provided today, to me, is so thrilling. It's just so interesting. And I don't think we have had a presenter on the show with such dynamic information. So I'm really happy that you were here to share all of this with us today. So tell me, where can people find you? I'm sure people will want to talk with you and reach out to you. So where can my listeners find you?
Yes, and I would be delighted to connect with all of you. You can, of course, contact me through my website. The website is the same as the company name, transformyourperformance.com. I also have a LinkedIn profile, which is Regina Huber, just my first and last name. And I have my Career Growth Strategies newsletter on LinkedIn that you may want to check out and maybe subscribe to if it resonates and if it's relevant to you. I cover quite broad topics from leadership to your own career growth. And if you are committed, if you're truly committed to your own leadership success, I'd love to support you with one specific challenge or question in a complimentary session. And you can book a time slot for your, what I call your leader up level session. And, it could be about self-leadership. As I said, it's very important. That session, you can find it. The link is a bit long. I'm sure we're sharing it with this episode. It is transformyourperformance.com/1-coaching-session.
Okay,
so it
awesome.
is a bit long, but yes,
well, that's okay. We're going to put all of that in the marketing material. We're going to make sure everybody knows how to get in touch with you and how to get your book, Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine. I've also got a link for that too. So going to make sure that everyone knows how to get that. So you've told us about what you're offering, a session for our listeners to connect with you. Do you have any final thoughts or any last words you'd like to leave us with?
Yes, and I did also want to point our listeners quickly to my YouTube channel. It's at Regina Huber. I didn't mention that yet, and the book is, of course, on Amazon. Yes, my final thoughts. Of course, I would love to connect with you and support you in your leadership. And one thing that I would like you to also take away from this episode is that no one is in charge of your career but you. It's your only your only unique path. No one walks on the same path as you. You came to this earth as a unique DNA defined person with your very specific background, your authentic brilliance and genius, and you're here to use it. And that's what you as a leader also want to instill in your team members. Allow them to empower themselves, because we cannot be empowered by others. We can only, we need to recognize this as leaders. We can only guide others to empower themselves, just as we can only empower themselves if we truly look at the meaning of empowerment.
Wow. Yes. Bring your authentic selves, people, listeners. Bring who you are, because that's who we need. We don't need you to compare yourself or put yourself on the same level as someone else. Bring yourself, bring that piece that we need, that we're lacking. And leaders, encourage your teams to do so and help them to build trust, help your teams as a unit to build trust. So, and remember your heart, and your heart set as well as your mindset. That heart is magnetic, and it can draw to you what it is that you're seeking. So that is such great information, Regina. I thank you so much for being on the show today. And I will be posting all your links and all your information in the marketing material and in the promotionals so that our viewers can be sure to connect with you. So I want to thank you all for listening to another episode of Team Building Cultures. Again, I'm your host, Beverly Hathorn, and I really appreciate you being here. Until next time.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Team Building Cultures. We hope we have delivered helpful and enlightening information to help you create your dream team. Join us next time.